Hey, look at me. I'm up past midnight. Thought I'd sit down and do another chat along the lines of the JodyVision. So I've been building a few playlists for different conversations. In this conversation, I started this last year after Rosie died because I was just going over I feel like this is kind of what brought me here. Here's where I am and here's how I got here. The JodyVision is kind of the side of me, my life, my artist life is also my visionary life. I think the psychic awareness and spirituality all ties in, so this is where I'm putting all my stories about that stuff. And one of my favorite stories has always been, going into visionary state. It's kind of a longer story because it's happened throughout my life and all this stuff. So anyways, I've been trying to share how I became interested in Bill Leeb with Frontline Assembly. And so far I've been able to share from when we moved to the Florida Keys and I first saw him in my vision. So he seemed to be a kid real close to my age. So I was 6 and he was supposedly 8. And that's where also Rosie and Howard. So I actually made friends with Rosie later in life. And I met Howard a few times, but I really knew her. So here's the interesting thing. So 1982, I go into visionary state. We were in the Florida Keys for the first year of this, so I really didn't have a lot of friends and stuff. And so Rosie was the one taking care of Billy. And so first time I met Bill Leeb would be in 1996. So I went to the show and we didn't really talk, but there we were. I went to the tour bus. So anyways, I feel like that's when we first met. But I also met Rosie within a couple of months. Now I didn't recognize her from the visions yet. But later on, I realized that she was the one that was keeping Billy, but then we got separated during that stuff. So anyways, the parallel is that, it's kind of interesting that they were both in the visionary state, and then I sort of met him the same year, but it's like I stayed really close friends with her. But with Bill, I never really became friends with him, but I did feel like about 25 years ago, I finally reached out to him and since then have been in contact off and on since then. And so leading up to that would be where I went into visionary state at that age of 6, saw him a few times, but then about I'd say age 10 or 11, around 85 into 86, we were listening to Bushido, and that's Gary Livermore who started Third Mind Records, and I really liked one of their songs, and I kept asking my dad to play them. Plus, I was thinking about going to a karate class, so he just thought it was a weird coincidence that I've always wanted to do, because I was also asking for a synthesizer. I was wondering if I could, make music like SBK and those guys, if I could get a synthesizer to do that. And so he wrote to them, and they recommended Frontline Assembly. So I'd say probably early in 87, then they recommended Frontline Assembly. And my dad, he's a music collector. He's been collecting music since the 60s probably, so he's been good about finding rock and roll music. It was his basic, but then when there's underground stuff, they had what you call garage music, and then the Beatles kind of went psychedelic, but then the 70s there was the art rock and underground music started coming out, and then he was on time for industrial music, so we were listening to industrial music before we left Michigan, and we seemed to have a bunch of people at the house that wanted to do music, and some guys that started a band, and they moved to Colorado. And so when we moved to the Florida Keys, it just seemed like we left our music scene behind. So within that first year, I had that vision about meeting Bill Leeb as a little kid, and so it's kind of interesting. So my dad stayed in touch with those guys, and it seemed like living in the Florida Keys, we managed to still be able to follow our music. But I feel like I grew up listening to this music in an isolated way, so I didn't really have friends around me, my age group, that listened to this music. So I guess like I was telling my story, when I reached the age of 18, that's when I started realizing Bill Leeb and Billy might be the same person. And I thought, wouldn't that be great, because I used to remember Billy, we moved over where I thought he lived or was staying with Rosie, so I kept going past that house and thinking it'd be nice if I could have Billy back, because I'd really like to have a friend that's into this music and stuff, and be able to start a band or whatever. So that's where I was making that connection back when I was 18, 1993, But I wasn't really that like headstrong about it yet. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. You know, I kind of put it on a back burner. So I thought about it from time to time. And then, but when I moved to Colorado, my dad's friend Kelly had a project called Human Head Transplant, and I thought he was friends with Genesis P. Orridge, involved with Temple of Psychic Youth, and then friends with Boyd Rice. I thought he had all these friends out there that were into industrial music, and I thought if I went there, I would find my people, you know. And so I got there, and he said he was done with that music scene. He was really upset with it, and he was really upset with Genesis because he's such a dirty old man and everything, and the people are just stuck up and all that, and it just seemed like, you know, it was over. So and then I started going out and checking out the music scene, and I kind of hated it too. So I was kind of seeing where he was coming from, and so I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't making the connections I wanted to make and stuff like that. And I went to one of those visionary slips, and my friend Rosie was the one. So I was able to confirm all this with her later, that she wasn't the one that called, but this is the visionary slip where I was told that I would that we would see Armageddon someday. So in that same conversation, this is something I really want to go over in length later on, but it's an important point. I would say like probably earlier in 1998, I had this conversation in a visionary slip where my guides were, it felt like Rosie was calling me and telling me I really need to write to Bill Leeb. You know, this could be my soulmate, and if I ever want to see him again, I need to write him. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to write him. And it's like, Jody, you need to learn to write. Like, and she was kind of giving me a lecture about I need to work on writing. I need to go on the internet and I need to write. I'm like, oh no, I hate going on the internet and I hate writing. But she was also telling me why I need to learn to write is so I can share my knowledge, my spiritual knowledge. And so the more I think about it, yeah, the more I do. So I feel like by trying to write to Bill Leeb has forced me to do something I wouldn't normally want to do. But I felt compelled. I felt like the conversation made me think about it. Like she tried to tell me he's known me all my life, so I kind of thought maybe on the other side he'd remember me. So that's what I was hoping on. But when I wrote him, I just felt like, you know, I shouldn't expect anything like, you know, like if he was my boyfriend a long time ago, like in kindergarten. I shouldn't expect that now. I mean, it's been a long time. Plus, he looked a lot older in that picture anyways. But I just thought, yeah, so I should still try to connect with this band, you know. So that's why I wrote them, and so I really didn't know what to expect. I just felt like, you know, because I listened to industrial music, a lot of those people didn't even know how to make music. They were just friends, and they tripped on acid together, and they got a lot of ideas. So I just figured, you know, like, now obviously Bill's a lot more advanced. I mean, I feel like there's a lot more musicianship that goes into what he was doing by the time I met him. So I figured, if anything, you know, I thought, well, I'll invite him to my house and play the keyboard. You know, I had a keyboard and a guitar. That's what I was thinking back then. Is I just thought, you know, if he likes me, he'll let me join his band. Maybe we'll figure it out. So I just thought, since I talk about this so much, I should share what I have left now. What I have here behind me, it's like most of my stuff's in storage, but this is like my most precious stuff. This is like all the music I have left, and this is like the box. Like all my pictures and stuff is gonna go in. I got my photo album, some pictures. I got other framed pictures like this somewhere, but like that's the box it goes in when I'm ready to move. This is all I have left from my CDs, and so that's all my Bill Leeb, and I'd probably have a lot more if it weren't for some bad circumstances where I've lost music. Like, I thought it'd be fun to share what I do have by him, and maybe just kind of share some of my thoughts on this band, you know, because I talk about him so much, right? So that's all I got left. These two on the corner here are still in their wrapping. I think those were called Total Terror. I think I got those a long time ago. Those are like good if you're a real fan and you really want to see Bill's progress. Those are good to listen to, and I could tell listening to some tracks on there. I thought, oh, he definitely listens to Cabaret Voltaire. I don't know which track it is, but I just thought he sounded just like Stephen Valander on one of them. And then other times I kind of feel like, you know, Bill's definitely listened to a lot of cosmic music, like we call. So maybe these guys like some of that stuff. Let me see what else here. I think I can't remember what was on that one, if it was just more stuff like that. But used to listen to that one, but I think when we discovered Frontline Assembly, there was a couple of albums. I think they combined it on here. They had Corrosion and Disorder. And so I'd say probably the first stuff would be like that. And so like I wish I could play the music I'm showing you. So I was thinking maybe another time we'll do a video where maybe we can find something on YouTube. And I also wish I could demonstrate, like I can play some of it on the keyboard. I mean, it's really not some of the stuff I can play on my keyboard, but some of the stuff I don't know. I think you gotta have a really good knowledge of synthesizers, right? And then I think after that stuff, I remember when this was new, possibly, and then I think that's a single there, and then I kind of remember when this one came out. So like in my last, I guess in middle school for me, I would have been like, you know, it was between 6th and 8th grade when we were listening to this stuff, and some of the like Acoustic Grip. There was I think it's if I can think of any lyrics off the top of my head, would be like, "We'll steal your dreams, control your minds, persecute the fools left behind," right? I love stuff like that. And then I remember when this one came out, this is Tactical Neural Implant. My dad was thinking, oh, it's like they're getting better and better all the time. So this is when me and my dad were listening to them. It seemed like he was the bigger fan, you know, and I remember him listening to Frontline Assembly one day and just thinking, oh man, this guy is such a genius. I really love Bill Leeb. He said, I'd really love to, you know, give this guy a hug someday, you know. Well, something happened with the record label. So this guy joined up with another record label, and they wanted the band to sound more like a heavy metal band or something, or whatever they have. And well, we didn't know that at the time, but when they did Millennium, this one came out. I think they did a really good job on these albums. I think this is where they kind of take on more of that heavy metal sound, and then that's Hardwired. I think my dad was really bummed out because he never really liked, you know, heavy metal or anything like the popular stuff, you know. And he felt like for Frontline Assembly to do that, they were kind of, you know, trying to cater to the audience they're trying to get, you know, trying to get people that like that kind of music to become part of their audience. Like, they seem to have such an authentic, original sound when they came out, and now it sounds like they're trying to cater to the crowd. But in hindsight, now that I know the reality, they were kind of talked into doing an album like that. And I don't know, I've always really liked it, so I still listen to it sometimes, and there's good tracks on there, like, of course, Millennium's the best track. There's a couple good tracks. I can't think, but I kind of want to keep going. I don't want to go too slow here. And then after I moved to Denver, I think I got this. This always reminds me of my first year in Denver. You know, it was cool was when Rosie and Howard came by. Now, Howard's the old guy, well, not old guy, but it was her, like, last husband or third husband that I was talking about. That I met him in the Vision too, and so I didn't talk to him very much. I didn't get to know him very much, but they came to stay with me, and I was listening to that Circuitry single, and we got up to leave and come back, and Howard goes, "Hey Jody, you got some more of that good music?" And I thought, that's great, you know. I felt like, you know, he's probably never listened to music like that before, so turning Howard on to Frontline Assembly, that's what we had. That was that's a really good single, and then that always reminded me of my first year in Denver. This is what I was listening to all the time. So I have pictures of me and my friend Chris there. I got that shirt on from that album under my karate. I don't know what I got, a jacket or something there. And then this one has an important line in it too, Plasticity. I really love this one, by the way. He has a really important line when he says, the laws of nature, the laws of man, this volatile paradox will never stand. Yeah. I guess they must have, I don't remember what label they went on, but they changed labels, but they changed their sound a little bit, and it has more of a techno-y sound. So I kind of like that one, you know. It's a little bit cheesy now, but it's almost seemed like ever since this point, it's just been getting a little bit cheesy, you know, like, but it's still really good, you know. And then when this album came out, though, I felt like, I just didn't like this one as much, but the interesting thing is there's a song on here that I prophesied. Now, that conversation I was saying where I was talking to Rosie, she mentioned the song Prophecy. And if you see, it's the one that stands out. And she mentioned a couple of lyrics. So early in 98, I was in a visionary slip where Rosie was the presenter. So I don't know who I'm talking to, so that's the weird thing. But she told me, we were having a conversation about something where she said, the higher we climb, the harder we fall. And sometimes even angels learn to fall. And she said, and by the way, that's going to be part of a song that's going to come out. And so when I heard that song, it's like, oh shit, you know. And in that conversation, we also prophesied a song that came out on Reese Folber's Conjure One. Grains of sand are all we are, crawling on this manic star. So in that same conversation, so I prophesied the lyrics to Prophecy. I think that's very funny. And this was a good single. I don't remember if I just didn't like that album so much. Vanished. I really liked that one. And so I kind of quit collecting his albums. I feel like ever since, so when I came to see them in 1998, that's where I was saying, I felt like we kind of had it was a bad interaction because like the wife came to town and started spread and stuff. And it just seemed like I felt like I really hated them for a minute, but something brought me back to Bill, and that's the weird thing. But it just felt like I was just really really heartbroken. And I noticed ever since then, so like he's also been, so there's like a synchronicity there. I think it's around the time his life was shifting or something. I feel like I was meeting Bill Leeb right around the time his life was shifting. When we look at like all the stuff he was doing from 87 and on, and I'm going to talk about the stuff up here later, he was very prolific. I'm going to say prolific. He's done a lot of stuff. So like everything after this, I kind of feel like I didn't like as much, but there are other fans that think it's their best stuff and they don't like the old stuff as much. So, maybe it's just a different vibe, and people with different karma with this band need the music. But this one, I like this one because it had a guest singer from Front 242 and a couple of good tracks. And I think I must have liked a couple of tracks. I found this when I was shopping in Denver last time I was down there, and it's just one I didn't listen to as much. So I don't really have a lot of the newer Frontline Assembly. I feel like I'm more of the older fan. I like when Bill Leeb was like the late 80s, early 90s more. And so like my Delirium collection's kind of short too. Like, it's kind of funny with Delirium. It's like this stuff over here, some of it's almost more industrial sounding than Frontline Assembly was. But then like right here is when they started getting that like that dance sound with the chicky vocals on it. And I really liked that. Like when I first heard that, I felt like I could kind of relate, to what he's trying to do. Because I always felt like, some of the music I listen to is too weird. And that's kind of what I was saying in another videos. I felt like New Order was more safe to play around people. They're not as bad as some of the other music I listen to. So I thought, it'd be kind of cool, like if I was doing electronic music, to kind of experiment with all those ranges, like being dark and heavy and nuts and all that. And then maybe having some stuff that's more, listenable, like you could play it around to other people, So I feel like maybe Bill Leeb's in the same boat. He's kind of like, multifaceted. Like he's got a heavy side and he's got a lighter side, and like he put it, maybe this could be his feminine side. But like then I had Karma, and I never got another copy of it. Now I have a lot of stuff that I got rid of at some point, like I'd say into 2000, like I was freaking out and I got rid of all my Frontline Assembly and everything by Bill Leeb. I got rid of everything Psychic TV and stuff because of my visions. I was like freaking out, got rid of that also. I took a loss a couple different times, so anyways, I really didn't care for the stuff that came out after Karma. I felt like he kept, making more like chicky albums. My dad even said that he just felt like it's just a woman's album. Like I think after Poem or something else he did, he said it sounds like he's just making women's albums. And so my little joke has been that Delirium is what Frontline Assembly fans play when their girlfriends come over, which is funny because my dad started doing that very same thing. Like he listens to a lot of stuff that he thinks is too heavy for his girlfriend, so he kept putting on that Delirium album. Karma when she came over. And one day she even mentioned, like, why do you keep playing that album when I come over? And he realized, oh, you know, he just thinks it's safe. And here's the irony is I found out I feel like Delirium is what Bill Leeb plays for his wife. I almost feel like she doesn't care for the FLA and all that crazy heavy stuff, but she definitely is all for it, right? Anyway, so I'm not really into like stuff that is made for women all that much. I don't really like women's culture, and you know, it's like I don't know. I guess I just like guy music. Anyways, I really appreciate the Cyberactive. It's got 3 tracks on it, and I know they had it's kind of like when Bill Leeb got with Kevin Key from Skinny Puppy, and I really love Kevin Key and all his a lot of his side projects, you know. And so like I kind of feel like some of this stuff over here though, like the Intermix, Noise Unit, Protec, there's a couple other projects. I think I've had some Synesthesia, and I've had Equinox in my collection before, and I used to think when I was younger I liked this song by Chris and Cozy called Synesthesia, and I thought I should start a little electronic band of my own and call it Synesthesia. That's like my favorite thing about listening to music. So I thought, hey, maybe if I could make friends with Bill Leeb, maybe we could do a Synesthesia record together. That way we could use that title, because it's one that kind of got buried, you know, so it's kind of something I've thought of. But yeah, I really appreciate now, I was going to say these sounds, I think of that's like Bill Leeb's version of techno. A lot of this stuff is just sort of experimental for them. Like I felt like they could be more relaxed, like with, I think, Frontline Assembly, Delirium. They try to be real precise and professional, but this stuff I felt like because it's relaxed, it gave them a chance to, you know, kind of mess around. And so I really appreciate some of this, like this one, like I see that's like 30 years ago, isn't it? So and to this day it's still pretty dope tech. In fact, it's still pretty dope tech, still pretty dope tech, still pretty dope tech, still pretty dope tech. You know, there's a song on there, the sample, they're saying still pretty doped up. I just changed it to still pretty dope techno. It's dope. That's all I can say. Anyways, the Noise Unit that I really love, I don't even have in the collection anymore. It was Strategy of Violence. I had the one with the cool cover on it, and then I had the one with the cheesy cover. And all I have is like somebody made me a copy, you know. Now this is the one I hate the most, and that's not only because it had his mean girlfriend on it, but because it was probably like the least interesting music. So I feel like this is a funny thing. So like I find out, you know, I couldn't talk to Bill Leeb because he was married, you know, and then I find when I got this album, I just thought this has got to be his new girlfriend. So I was thinking this has got to be his new girlfriend or something. Maybe he got a divorce or whatever, and that lady's out of the picture. So I thought maybe it would be safe to write to Bill Leeb again. So I'd say 2005, I was trying to sit down and write him a letter and tell him about all this stuff that's going on. I just thought I'd, you know, try to make a nice, intelligent letter. But then when I saw this this album cover, I knew this has got to be his girlfriend. So this is around 2005, I think. I was writing a letter, and I put the letter in the mail. And later on, I had a dream that I went to what might have been Bill's house and saw this woman. Now, here's what makes me laugh is there's her from behind. And then let's see, there she is stretched out. Let's see, the other picture here is her sexy legs. See those sexy legs? But then there's one picture, if not 2 pictures, of her ass. And I think that's kind of messed up. There's not a single picture of her face, but there's 2 pictures of her ass. Right. Anyways, so I sent off that letter and I had that dream about her. Well, then after I moved to Montana, I got on Facebook. She kind of ensnared me. So I mentioned her in another video before this. Like she's the one that kind of put me in touch with Bill Leeb. But that's how I knew he must be single. And so, you know, I found out, you know, if Bill Leeb ever does a biography, he should just go ahead and share the stuff. Because what's happening is Bill Leeb had a bad case of hot, sexy rock star syndrome. And he thought that since he's such a hot, sexy rock star, he should be dating models. And I think that's how he ended up getting involved with this girl. And it was very costly. So that's just something that happened to Bill, but I think, you know, that's a long time. I think, you know, we can laugh about that now. So I would just say that's, you know, something I don't want to sound rude, but I like to laugh about this because this girl was kind of mean to me, and she had a lot of fun putting me down and stuff like that. She called me, you know, she said I was fat and ugly and all this type of stuff. Well, later on, they had this video done of them live, and well, because I was always fighting with this girl on the internet, this woman, a couple different people came forward and started talking to me, you know, and helped me figure shit out, and it's, you know, it's kind of fun to laugh about now. I think things have calmed down, and you know, I've worked on making peace. But just the funny thing I've learned about this video is Bill Leeb was really upset because there were too many close-ups. So I was gonna say is I made friends with the person that made this video, and he was really upset with her because there were too many close-ups, and you could see how old he looks, and you could see the lines in his forehead, and so it was something I've been laughing about because, you know, it seemed like I'm being called names and about my appearance and all this stuff, and then I come to find out that Bill Leeb's really worried people were gonna laugh at him because of his appearance, you know, because he's turning into an older man. Well, so, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, after those guys have been laughing at me, first of all, I want to point out there's like no picture of her face, only 2 pictures of her butt, and number 2, Bill Leeb and his big wrinkly forehead, you know. Anyways, you guys, I wanted to share a little bit about this band and what I have left of their collection. I probably have a lot more. I mean, I want to say, you know, I think that Bill Leeb is a really great artist. He might be half man and half dragon, at least by the sounds of his vocals. And you know, dragons are very magical, intelligent beings. Wouldn't it be great if we found out they were, in fact, like him and Kevin Key were half man, half dragon? Maybe that's why they're good at music. I don't know. But I've been listening to music like this all my life, and sometimes I don't understand why I like some of the things I do, so I kind of like to laugh about myself. You know, why do I listen to industrial music? Why would I listen to it's part of psychedelic culture. I don't know how psychedelic Bill Leeb is, but when you go back to the root of it, and the older bands like Throbbing Gristle and those guys, I feel like for me, you know, music is magic, and where I'm coming from, like with Frontline Assembly, like if I were to be able to join their band, it's because I felt like, you know, that deep-rooted desire from when I was a kid. I felt like, you know, there was a connection there. So I'm not interested in like making a name for myself and going around. Like something that we laughed about with Jeremy Inkle is he had this band called LSD, stood for Left Spine Down, and I really never liked that band. I just felt like, you know, it was very amateur, you know, just a bunch of guys want to be in a band, and they were kind of promoting it with Jeremy Inkle of Frontline Assembly. Like, now when Reese Fulber promotes himself and he says Reese Fulber of Frontline Assembly, I think that's fair, that, you know, he's been such an important part of that band, you know, that he can promote himself by saying that. But somebody like Jeremy Inkle using it to promote it as if he's a founding member, like I wouldn't want to, you know, get involved with Bill Leeb so I can be like, I'm Jody of Frontline Assembly or anything like that, or, you know, like, but I think, you know, the whole reason I've been coming to him is I felt like it's like you know, maybe it's a karma thing, like I've been saying, you know, maybe we have past life things that cross over. And so there's been the aspect of, you know, why would I join this band? You know, I felt like when you look at all the other music I like and just kind of the way my life plays out, it's kind of funny, you know, that I've always wanted to make music. I've been developing my musicianship off and on, and I'm not like, you know, hardcore with it, but I've also gone into martial arts, and so I've been just sort of straddling, you know, being in the martial arts world and being in the music world, and somehow those kind of work together for me. And so some of the stuff I want to share with you a little bit is about how I've been trained in martial arts, and and how that's fueling my martial arts training. And then in the long run, you know, when I get to where I'm set up and able to actively write music as I come up with it, because I come up with music all the time and it gets lost with the wind. But also that energy I get from martial arts goes back to the music. So I feel like that's where it's cool that I had karma with this band, Frontline Assembly. They come to my visions, made me think about getting into the getting into the music business a little bit more. It kind of aided to that Bushido, you know, Gary Levermore writing us back and stuff like that. And just the whole concept. Also, you know, I feel like, you know, we're talking about Armageddon might happen. I might be getting trained to have visionary state experiences that I can interpret and use more intelligently, right? And so this could be some training, but there's some character building in here and some coming face to face. Like, so when we look at, you know, how do I feel about joining Frontline Assembly? I'm impartial. It's more like I would do it out of friendship and out of love and for the connection more than anything else. Otherwise, you know, there's a lot of material they've written that I don't really listen to as much, you know, but I would be willing to play it out, I guess, if I was involved with them and they needed, you know, my presence. They don't really need, like, they just have, you know, Bill and Reed, somebody on drums and guitar. Like, they don't really need me, but, you know, if they... It's just a fun thought, you know. It was, you know, told, you know, in my vision I was told we'll be playing in a band and married someday. So I have to answer, how do I feel about playing in this band? At the moment, I would say impartial, but before I don't know if I've ever felt extremely strongly about it, because I felt like I'm not eligible, like, you know, I'm not like on a really high level like there. So he would just, you know, if Bill Leeb liked me, you know, and wanted to work with me on things like that, you know, I could probably learn enough to help, you know, perform the music, but I'm not on a level where, you know, I can produce and record and stuff like these guys. They're like high level, so I feel like I have a lot to learn to be on their level. But like, it would just be, you know, after, you know, all these visions and that connection, I feel that's why I'd want to do it, really. And then so the next question, you know, like, you know, so how do you feel about joining this band? How would I feel about being married to Bill Leeb too? Because that's what was being thrown at me in this visionary state, and that's like so embarrassing, because I feel like it sounds like something I've thought of, but it's really like one of those things where I would have never thought of it if it wasn't for the visionary state. Like, so I want to talk more about like how I feel about this dude, and like having this question thrown at me like makes me really answer a lot of questions about myself, because like I don't think, you know, at this point I will ever be able to get involved with him, like with Frontline Assembly or like anything. Like I almost don't think I'm ever going to see Bill Leeb again, to be honest. And like at best, I think it'd be nice if he was somebody I could give him a call and just talk, you know, like, you know, just be an old friend, be like my uncle, kind of like he has been. Like, a few times I've been able to talk to him. He seems real friendly to me. I almost feel like I'm talking to a family member at times, but like, you know, like it seems kindred. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. It feels like this is somebody I should know. That's how I feel about him. But I don't feel like I could expect much of anything, especially after 25 plus years of trying. And that's why I kind of want to express like kind of like how the things unfolded, how I felt about Bill Leeb, because I want to share the rest of my story. I think it's kind of fun and colorful, but I don't want people to keep trying to correct me and recommend therapy and stuff. If you understand, if you watch these videos in order, where I'm at in reality and where I've got a handle on it. Anyways, don't want these videos to get too long or I won't be able to upload them. So I want to go into the, next time I talk about this subject, I will maybe talk about more the emotional aspect of it, and then we'll try to go back to the timeline again and unveil the timeline. So I'll talk to you soon. You guys have a fun night. Boop, 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 boop.